All right. That's what I was waiting for. Thank you so much. So hello, everyone. My name is Holly Reynolds. I am a senior product designer here at GitLab on the plan team. I'm having some Zoom window issues at the moment, but we'll get through it. I want to take a quick poll, and you can put this in the Slack or in the Zoom chat if you aren't sharing your camera. So just out of curiosity, I'd like to have on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very little and 5 being very high, where everyone thinks that they rank in terms of understanding of plan, particularly as a stage group, when you think of our users, maybe the things that we're working on, the things we have coming down the pike. I'd just love to see either show of hands or just 1 to 5. Where do you think you fall on that scale? See a 3, 2. Let me check the chat really quick. 1, 3, 4. So yeah, seems like it's around like kind of middle of the ground, which is about what I expected. So thank you all for participating in that. That helps to address a theory that I have. So Plan is a pretty big stage group. It covers a large amount of UI real estate. Alexis and I occasionally get pinged in issues and MRs because people aren't entirely sure if we're the DRI on a specific piece of the product or not. So my first objective today is to just give a quick overview of Plan and maybe help clarify a little bit about what we tend to kind of be a good resource for she and I in terms of who to contact. Of course, anyone can contribute to any stage group, but if you do have specific questions about some of these things, then feel free to ping us. We might be a good resource to check in with. Next, I'm going to provide just a brief overview of some of the interesting things that are currently happening in Plan, and then touch on some of our long-term goals. So my vision here is just to zoom out a little bit from a specific feature presentation and give maybe just a quick refresher of a broader view of the group. Everything is in the handbook for the most part, but it's kind of scattered in various places. And I know we're all very busy working on our own stage group stuff. So my theory is that doing this kind of presentation periodically might help to just give everyone kind of a quick refresher as to what this group does and who we're working for. And then again, kind of our current initiatives and upcoming initiatives. This actually came about after chatting with Valerie not too long ago on the importance of cross-stage collaboration. And I found myself thinking through it and asking, what are some of the additional ways that I could maybe help to surface what Plan is doing and better understand what other groups are doing? And so I just, again, felt that having this refresher at a very high level at times might be helpful to kind of keep some of these things top of mind for other folks. So there's 3 stages or 3 groups within our stage: project management, product planning, and certify. We work closely with create and manage, but also with monitor, and have recently worked with other stage groups, of course. Some of the things that keep us busy most frequently are issue tracking, time tracking, boards, epics, and roadmaps. But we're also good resources for some of these other things, like working on assignees. If you find yourself with questions about labels, maybe about quick actions, the plan group is going to be a good group just to ping and maybe see if we have any additional insights, because typically we have done some degree of research on most of these things and have talked with those users. So we may already have some understanding that might be beneficial to you. So before I go into the next slide, another quick show of hands or scale of kind of 1 to 5 in terms of level of understanding of who Plan's personas are. Just maybe like to see like where people feel like they think they stand in terms of knowing who those folks are. Probably like a 2. My Zoom window got moved over here again, so let me pull it back over. See some chats coming in. So yeah, about 3, 4, a couple of 4s I see, so that's good to know. So I'll just briefly touch on this because, again, this is in the handbook, but the personas that we focus on most heavily are Parker, which is the product manager generally, Delaney, which is more of an engineering lead, Presley, which is more of our UX interaction design, product designer persona, and then Sasha, who is the engineer. So if you find yourself working with these personas and have some questions about them, feel free to ping us. We've had a lot of conversations with these personas in the past. We have a lot of insights as to what their challenges are, their motivations and pain points. We also see a need for an executive persona in the future. Currently, we have that as a buyer persona. But we are looking to add in plan analytics in the future. So maybe having that as a user persona in the future is going to be something worth exploring. But an example of why this is potentially valuable to mention here from a recent situation was I couldn't tell you top of mind who monitors users were until recently when Amelia and I had to work together on incidents, which was something she was creating for her stage group, but it was based on the foundation of issues, which is my stage group. So it was an opportunity for me not to just focus on my own personas, but the personas that also impacted her stage group as well. So that's really the main reason I bring it up here. Again, in the handbook, you can find that, and you may already know them off the top of your head, but just in case you don't, I thought I would just touch on them quickly. So some of the things that we are working on right now are work items. The long-term vision and plan is to make the process of work stream management highly configurable with a focus on having a great user experience for our customers. In the context of tracking, what we currently know of today as issue tracking, this means allowing users to create generic objects, call them what they want, relate them to one another however they want, and customize the components and metadata with them however they want. So a really customizable interface for those elements. Formerly known as collabjects, I did do a presentation on that in the past. We now call them work items. They're kind of the humble beginnings of this larger vision. So again, what we know today is issues, epics, requirements, incidents. They may eventually become types of work items alongside bugs, features, maintenance, which is what we're calling tech debt. So those are some of the reasons, again, I mentioned it here, is that I think there's a lot of potential to interact with several other stage groups in the future. And I just want to surface it so that everyone kind of knows what we're doing. So some of the other aspects of this might include inline editing for titles and description creation, UX improvements to help reduce context switching. There are some research issues that I'm working on currently as well surrounding the name of this object, the use of work items, and whether or not that makes sense to our users, as well as testing proposed solutions if you'd like to know a little bit more. So because we're taking a mobile first approach with this as well and creating new patterns, including the inline edit and interactions with the editor feature itself, I've pulled in Jeremy and Michael Lay and some other folks to get their feedback. But if you see that this is something that might be impacting something you're working on, please feel free to ping me, reach out, and this could be an opportunity for us to collaborate. Feedback is always highly desired as well. So if you just have thoughts on these experiences, I'm happy to share my Figma files, anything that might be relevant to help you understand kind of where we are with this. The next is automation of iteration creation. So currently our users have to manually create new iterations rather than setting a cadence. We do have the concept of cadences built. It's behind a feature flag right now, and we're sorting through some issues with that. But the thought in the future is that this would be something that they just set the cadence. It automatically looks for work items that are identified as open and rolls them over automatically into the next cadence, saving them this need to have to go in and manually create one each time. So that's something that is currently also in play. Improving performance. So we've probably, most of us experienced a 500, unfortunately, when pulling up our issue lists. We're looking to improve things like that, as well as making discussions load faster, use a little bit less memory, and better real-time architecture. So real-time unified state management. An example of this is if you have closed an issue recently, you may have noticed that you don't actually see the state change to closed until you do a page refresh. So this is something else that we're working on and looking to improve the experience of. As far as what's next, we have extensible issues. This is creating that customizable layout for work items. So again, giving people the ability to really determine the kind of widgets and metadata that they might want to have in their work item views. That's long-term. Velocity, measuring team performance for better planning. This might include showing the average weight completed over 5 previous iterations, for example, showing trending and velocity and volatility over previous iterations. So really helping the team to be as informed as possible so that they know how to best plan for upcoming work. Next is issue statuses, going beyond just open and closed for what would actually be work items in the long term, to offering things like inactive, active, completed, and incomplete. So something that's probably a bit more meaningful. This is something we've had a lot of customer requests for, and I think it could be really valuable to offer this. Also, saved views, having the ability to define and save configurations for views like lists, boards, and roadmaps. And finally, actually not finally, I just added in the last two, roll-ups for higher initiatives. So surfacing the relationships between work items and higher level initiatives. The primary use case for this is to enable our business leaders at the executive level to be able to create a set of business goals and initiatives and map those efforts toward them over time. This will also allow them to understand how much work was committed and executed toward a goal, track progress toward the goal, and understand success and failure over a period of time, as well as report on that. Custom fields is coming up much later. That has also been highly requested by our users, as well as automation. So kind of like GitLab triage, but having that as a native option within GitLab. I know that was a lot to cover, so thank you for your time. I would love questions. I would also love to know if this kind of presentation is useful to you all. Is it valuable to have this kind of high level overview at times, just to understand what a stage group is doing at a high level?